Welcome to the Sports Lounge. This is the 71st edition with Shane Koob, Nathan Stacken, Marcus Traxler, Charlie Hildebrand. I'm Travis Kriens. Plenty of stuff to talk about. First, Mr. Hildebrand, we have the barbecue deal done. More specifically, you have the barbecue deal done. What are the details?
Well, we can't get into all the specifics. There's a lot of things going on. If everything's not executed precisely, it's possible we could be at war with Portugal. But essentially, we're all going to get hefty salaries, and when they don't want us anymore, we're going to get hefty severance packages. Good. It should be good. It's really similar to the stuff they did in The Wolf of Wall Street. I'm sure it's all on the up and up. I think we're going to make a lot of money.
You head of finance.
Golf clap.
Head of finances here in the Sports Lounge. So money will be coming in. You'll see improvements in increased audio quality, increased video quality, increased everything, increased beards, better looking beards, everything. So it'll be a good time. 4 major things going on. You got the soccer going on. You got the basketball going on. The hockey's wrapping up. You got the U.S. Open going on. We sent Mr. Shattenkirk to Eastern North Carolina to cover that. Since the game is tonight, an hour away, I'll start with the NBA Finals. Spurs up 3-1. First 2 games very close. The next 2 games not very close whatsoever. I'm very surprised that the Spurs have played as well as they have, shooting 55, 60, 60%. That run they went on in game 3, the first 18 minutes, that's as good as I've ever seen the game of basketball be played offensively, making 18 of their first 20 shots. That was tremendous. It's not over yet until somebody beats Miami 4 times in a series. I'm not going to count them out yet, but how surprised are you that the Spurs played as well as they did, considering the series last year and the first 2 games we saw this year?
I would say I'm pretty surprised, considering a lot of the reasons you mentioned, and I just felt like Miami, I know they don't have a huge home court advantage, but they do play very well at home, and I think that LeBron, I really thought that he was going to have a good series, and he has, but he's not getting any help outside of him, and Dwayne Wade has not looked good in 4 games. He looks like he's 35 years old, and you look at Chris Bosh, I think he's been okay, but the Spurs, it doesn't matter. They're looking for whoever can get the open shot, and they're hitting them, like Kriens mentioned. I'm going to just jump right to the pick for tonight, I guess. I get a sense that this series is not over tonight, not close to being over, and I don't know why that. I still think we're in for a big LeBron game, and we got that last Sunday when we talked.
We got it in the third quarter when he scored 19 of 21, and they still lost by 20 points.
Not game 2, though.
No, but the game, it was game 4, I think. The last game he scored 19 of their 21 in the third, and their halftime deficit increased by 5-6 points. So he is fine.
Yeah, I think that speaks to the overall point that Miami. I mean, even when they had, you look at their last 2 finals wins. I would say Rashard Lewis, Ray Allen, obviously Mitchell's, Mike Miller had big series. Game 7 2 years ago, they're still talking about it here. Or not Game 7.
Never heard of him.
In South Dakota, they'll be talking about it forever.
They're talking about it. Yeah, he's in the annals of history here in the
what a usage! What a usage of words.
Anyway, I mean, in the past they've gotten the help they needed. I think they're up against it. I still think that they may kick it into gear tonight, and we may at least go to a 6 game. I still like the Spurs. I wouldn't be surprised if it's over to steal a stacking line, but I would say that I think the Heat still have a run in them.
Shouldn't they have had it? Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, shouldn't they have had that sense of urgency and that run in them in Game 4 after getting the doors blown off of them in Game 3? The Spurs just took it to them. I think the Spurs know how important it is to tonight to close the series out and not give Miami any hope. So I think San Antonio is going to close it out tonight. Miami, just outside of LeBron James, as you mentioned, Marcus, they.
Oh no! Oh no!
Here we go.
The audio.
Spurs.
Okay, there we go. There we go.
I guess my thought is on all this is this could easily have been a 4-game sweep.
Yep.
If the Spurs hadn't missed some free throws late in game game 2?
Yep.
Game 2. Yep. Yeah. I just think I think the Spurs are out for blood after last year, and they're looking good. They're seriously playing the best basketball I think I might have ever played. It's pretty ridiculous. The high percentage shooting that they're just absolutely knocking them down on anywhere on the floor. And Kawhi Leonard has just been absolutely brilliant this series. So it's been fun to watch because I love the NBA. But I think the Spurs are closing it out.
I don't think I have too much to add to what you guys said. You guys all made some good points. I think the Spurs are probably going to close it out tonight. I think that they've just played better. And, like I said, the last week and probably the week before that, it's just so tough to win it 3 years in a row. I mean, off the top of my head, I know Shaq and Kobe did it once. Jordan and Pippen did it twice. And I know the Celtics did it in the 60s at least once. And those are the only ones I know off the top of my head. There could be more. But if there aren't many more. And you just need so many breaks, and they're just not getting the same breaks they did last year. And, LeBron's the best player in the world. They don't have the same chemistry the Spurs do, and the Spurs play at such a high efficiency that it's just, and they're playing well enough that, they could win tonight and could make it a series. I think it's over, though. 3-1 already. No one's come back in the NBA Finals, which I'm sure everyone's heard 5,000 times in the last couple of days. No one's come back from down 3-1. I could see them winning tonight, but I think the Spurs are going to ice it and have it over with.
And maybe my thinking is flawed by just not believing what I've seen in the first 4 games. Just the fact that it wasn't supposed to be this easy for the Spurs, and they've made it look really easy. The Heat have looked bad defensively, and so maybe that's why I think that there's going to be more to this series when it very well could end tonight with one more blowout, and the Spurs just undeniably staking their claim to this impressive title.
It's not only that they've played so well the last 2 games, but they've played well in long stretches. In every game, a team goes on a run, 3, 4, 5 minutes. But they're going on like 10, 15, 20-minute runs where it's...
The first halves of the last 2 games.
It's not a run, it's a complete half or a complete game of some of the greatest shooting and ball movement that you've ever seen. And tremendous to watch. Right now, last year, if this series ends in 5 or 6 games, Danny Green may have been your Finals MVP. At this point, 1 game away from a possible Finals victory. Is Kawhi Leonard the MVP?
I think so.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's say
Agreed.
the Spurs or the Heat extend this to 7. Could you? I believe it's only happened once. Could you see a scenario where LeBron is the MVP, even though the Spurs win, since they do not have one player that really sticks out?
He would have to do.
You bring up an interesting point. I don't think it's going to matter, though. This isn't a perfect comparison, but I remember when the Pistons beat the Lakers in 2004, everyone was saying that should be the year that they give it to everybody because it was a team effort and no one really stood out, but they gave it to Chauncey Billups, which, I don't have a problem with that. He played well, too. I think they'd probably go with Kawhi Leonard or they'd go with somebody. I don't think a losing player would get it. And just real quick, I liked your 1 point, Travis, about the Spurs going on runs for the whole game. Yeah. And I like that Game 3 where they went on the 113-77 run. It was pretty impressive.
That was a good run. That was very impressive. Nathan Sack, and anything to add?
Well, I was just going to say that in order for LeBron to be named MVP, should the series go 7 and the Spurs win, he would have to play just like he has in games, 3 and 4, and even game 2 as well. So the rest of the Heat are going to have to not show up, and the Spurs are going to have to shoot a hell of a lot worse than they have the past 2 games for that to happen.
The very first MVP, I did look this up. Very first MVP was Jerry West, 1969. That was a losing effort.
So there is precedent, at least, you're saying.
There is precedent. It's 45 years old.
So happy birthday to the president.
Happy birthday to that president.
Happy birthday, President, 45-year-old president. There you go. The president, Jerry West. Probably get into more of this in depth next week should Miami lose. But if they do lose, 4 years, 2 titles, a good run, not a historic run. 4 finals is historic. Winning 2 of the 4 is not. They could very easily have won only 1 finals. That come in the lockout shortened season. Very fortunate to win last year. Let's say they do put Tim Duncan in the game there at the end, and he does get a rebound, or Ray Allen does not make that shot in Game 6 last year, and they only end up winning 1 final in 4 years. Does that drastically change how the Heat are remembered throughout this run?
I think it does. I think the difference between 1 and 2 is quite larger than, for example, 2 and 3 here if the Heat were to come back and somehow win this. Because, and I know that it was a stupid moment of just not thinking it through, but when they said not 5, not 6, not 7, as Kriens is doing the hand gestures there, that was really dumb. That was really dumb because that set the bar. That set, okay, they have to win 5 titles because that's what they said they do. And, that was probably unrealistic. But I would say that 2 titles in 4 years, if, let's say, the Big Three breaks up this year, and I don't think it will. I think at least 2 parts of it will be on the team next year, and one of those parts will be LeBron. I think 2 and 4 years is fine. But it's not what they set out to do, and it didn't. It sort of changed the NBA because you had other teams sort of end up being called Big Threes. You had the Thunder with a Big Three. The Spurs have always had the same Big Three, but now they were a Big Three. The Nets tried to build a very poorly old Big Three. So this is sort of set a precedent for other teams to try to build something.
I think you bring up a good point. I'm going to come at it from a slightly different angle. I think that whether they went 2 or 1, they're going to be remembered as a disappointment among a lot of people, just because I think people are going to unfairly say that they only met expectations instead of exceeding them. And a lot of times in the United States, there's no meeting expectations, in the day of the internet. Everything's either the best thing ever or the worst thing ever. And people are going to say unfairly, assuming they break up after this year, which we don't know if they will, but assuming they break up, they're going to say, how'd they only win 2? They should have won 4 in a row or at least 3. They're all bums, and I think it's going to be ridiculous when people say that. Because I think they've met expectations, and it's been good with 2, but I think there are going to be a lot of people, and maybe it's some secret conspiracy out of Cleveland, people trying to destroy LeBron's career. I don't know. But I think there's going to be a lot of people that are just going to say, nope, it's not good enough. He didn't do it. It's not impressive. He's like the 14th best player ever. I'm not one of those, but I think some people are going to do
LeBron's been gone for 4 years, and they've had the #1 pick 3 times. Is that right, in Cleveland? Yeah. So the conspiracy's dead in Cleveland. Cleveland, you have more than enough chances to end any sort of conspiracies, and it's not anybody else's fault that you picked Anthony Bennett last year. I'm going to leave it at that.
Hell of a singer, not much of a ball player. Tony Bennett, not so much.
I would just like to, I guess, in looking at the Heat's run, obviously, with more time you get more perspective, but I guess for me it's a mediocre run. Even when you think of like the early, when the Lakers went on their run there and won 3 in a row with Shaq and Kobe, like they were a great team those years, and I guess for me, if LeBron's calling himself the greatest and all that stuff, and comparing him to MJ, I guess this seems pretty lackluster to me. This little run they've been on. It's been decent, obviously, but you have Wade breaking down, pretty much. Well, because I mean he's old, health issues and all that. But to me, it just seems on par. I guess for kind of like what Charlie said, just seems on par with what they met expectations.
It's a good run, but like Marcus pointed out earlier, when they said in their introductory press conference, not 5, not 6, not 7 titles, that just set the bar way too high. So anything that they do, it fails to meet it because they set that bar so high, and it was so unrealistic to begin with. Because how the hell do you think Dwayne Wade was going to last 5 or 6, even 7 years, with this team and with this run? It's just not good. It's a good run for them. Yippee-doo-dah-day for the terrible fans of Miami, but overall, it fails to meet the expectations that they set for themselves.
Two more things based on what both Stacken and Koob have said. One, I really don't think they understood the impact that was going to have when they said that. I mean, obviously, that was not something they were obviously thinking of. It was a spur of the moment, cocky thing to say, and when you haven't won anything, you feel like maybe you can say that, or because they're in Miami, I don't know. But and the other part, I think Koob brings up a good point. Are we going to remember? Well, how are we going to remember this sort of age if we say it ends right now, and they don't win a title? Is it going to be remembered as like a golden age in NBA basketball? Is it going to be remembered like the Celtics or like the Lakers and Celtics of the '80s, like Jordan? I would say the three-peat with Kobe and Shaq, and then you have the stretch where Kobe won on his own, and the Spurs have been good this whole time, but I don't know how we're going to remember them, other than being a really good team for a long time. And you have LeBron, and it's just, okay, he won 2 titles. If I would say we would remember it more if it was Durant, James going at it 3 times, and James beat them all 3 times or something, but because we don't have any sort of signature moments, and I guess we had one really good series last year, it'll be remembered as a great finals, but as far as these overarching large narratives in NBA history, I don't know if 2 titles is really going to stand out a lot. It'll be, I think, the maybe failed experiment then, if we're going to remember it as something.
You're saying they're going to be the 2009 Saints, the team that was just kind of there for a brief period of time, and...
Well, I mean, 2004 Pistons, as being a team that was there for a very brief time, where defense won them the title. It was 2005 when the Heat won. That was Wade and Shaq, and like, damn, this team's really good, and then they disappeared. It's kind of funny how in the last, ever since Jordan, you had a great 3-year stretch for the Lakers, and then it's just sort of been hit or miss every other time, and I think that's fine. I think it shows that there's a lot of really good teams, a lot of really good players, but it's not going to be particularly notable. Kriens has asked me to talk about Carmelo Anthony and what we think will happen to Mr. Anthony, because I think it seems clear he's not going to stay with the Knicks. Now, the talk is that he could end up with the Heat. Let's go around and let's talk about whether or not we think that's actually possible, because I don't think there's enough space there. The NBA is a pretty tight financial league, and if you sign 4 guys for discounted deals, because LeBron, Bosh, and Wade would all have to take pretty big pay cuts, I just don't see it happening. How about you guys?
I think not even taking the money into account, I don't think you'd want Carmelo in there in the Heat anyways. I think there's not enough balls to go around. And in the other sense of the word, there's too many balls to go around. There's too many big egos. I think that, in a 5-game stretch against an untalented team, they could look lights out at times and unstoppable, but they just have stretches of not doing things correctly. And I don't think it would. I think they're better off. I think they're better off trying to find younger role players that are good, I guess, instead of bringing in Carmelo. And that's not even bringing the finances into it.
I agree.
Yeah.
I don't think it's good. It's possible, but it's definitely not likely. I mean, the Heat took a couple of years for that chemistry to get together just between Wayne, Bosch, and LeBron. Adding Carmelo to the mix, ball hog, would be terrible. And I think ultimately this would be a terrible thing for the NBA because you're putting an all-star team there with Carmelo, with LeBron, Bosch, and Wade. And does any other team have a realistic chance to win it? It'd just be boring. I think this would not work out well for the NBA. No other team really has all that great of a chance. So I hope it doesn't happen. I don't think it's going to happen, but there's a definite. I'm not going to say it's completely out of the question because they said they can make the money work.
Well, you have to make. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Coop.
I would love to see it, just for the fact that I think it would just fail so badly. I mean, it would generate a lot of talk. It'd be like, oh, Carmelo and LeBron, because I mean that's going back to when they were drafted. You know,
Yep.
I was always on the Melo bandwagon back before the draft there and before their careers unfolded. But I just think it would be hilarious to see that happen, and then just see kind of what a train wreck it would be. Because I think it would be a train wreck with.
Yeah, I think it'd be really bad. I mean, it'd be fun to watch, and certainly they'd have the most talented team. But I think, I'm not saying they wouldn't make the playoffs. I think they would be like the Shaq Kobe Lakers that lost to the Pistons. There would be some point in the playoffs that they would all get pissed at each other. Things would fall apart, and they would lose to someone that they don't have any business of losing to. And instead of 2 guys, there'd be 4 guys, and someone might punch someone. So in some ways, it might be more entertaining than the end of the Shaq Kobe Lakers. I think it would certainly make great theater. It would not equal Miami winning another title, in my opinion.
Yep.
I think my favorite part of this, regardless of where Carmelo goes, is how desperate he is. I think he's to the point now where he realizes, okay, the team can't be built around me and I can't win it myself.